been thinking about that a lot over the past week, as I imagine many of us have. Just how I remembered back to the beginning of the pandemic when it was like party time, or maybe that was just me that wanted to turn it into a party. And I was like taking my friend's classes with like a glass of whiskey next to me because I thought this is only going to last for 2 weeks. And like, we can handle anything for 2 weeks. And who would have thought? Right at that time that a year later here we would be together still. And I just want to express my huge appreciation for you all for sticking around with me through this. And just thinking also about that, about the ways that we really, for me, speaking for myself, and I think speaking in just a sort of generalization about humans, looking for something to soothe the feeling of being anxious, and or whatever the feeling is. It's been a lot of feelings. And again, I'm speaking personally, but I am imagining it's general, that over the year, and especially coming up to this 1 year anniversary, just having so many complex emotions and feeling these things, and recognizing the things that we do in response to that. So maybe we overeat, or maybe we over exercise, or we over social media, or we over online shop and just sort of drown in our computers. And we're looking for refuge, I think, but these kinds of things, they aren't really refuges at all, right? They're temporary escapes that actually just cultivate more craving. I was listening to my teacher, Cindy Lee, the other day, and she was talking about refuge, the idea of wanting to take refuge and thinking about it as sanctuary, and thinking about it like a bird sanctuary. And how in a bird sanctuary, the people who make the bird sanctuary or the butterfly sanctuary, they gather all the things that the birds love, all their favorite flowers, all their favorite scents, and all their favorite things to eat, so that the birds are drawn to the sanctuary. And humans can enter the refuge, the bird sanctuary or the butterfly house, but they're asked to be quiet and to be really subtle and respectful in their movements. And the people who create the sanctuary, they work really hard at creating the causes and the conditions for the birds to feel safe, and for the birds and the butterflies to feel nourished. And just thinking about that in relationship to our practice. Cindy used to always say, when I took class with her in the city years and years ago, she would talk about how yoga practice is not meant to be like a spiritual Prozac that we just sort of like check out and zone out, but it's actually to check in and to feel really deeply in. And that's really the heart of what taking refuge is. It's allowing ourselves to really be here. And it's so important because it is how we nourish ourselves. We could try to create refuge and all these other things outside of ourselves, but they're always going to be like a leaky house in our, category 5 hurricane. They're never going to work. And so thinking about that idea tonight of just really taking refuge in our practice, and how the birds, instead of running away from the sanctuary, they run towards it. So running towards ourselves, running towards our practice, running home to ourselves. And so we could begin just seated, and you could let your breath widen and deepen. Feel your dignity, your length as your crown reaches to the sky. Feel the width across the sides of you, and this width dimension, how it connects us, how the idea of opening out to the sides is a symbol, a metaphor for how we open to each other, even through Zoom, even in our little squircle boxes. And feeling your depth, feel into the back of your body, and even sense the space behind you. As you sense the space behind you, you could feel into all of your experiences, especially this past year. And the space behind you, this depth, also representing our ancestors, everybody who's got our back. And just letting your awareness really gently and slowly move from the back, from behind you, through the back skin of the body, through the back ribs and the internal organs, feeling into your depth, moving your awareness from the back all the way to the front, to this future that is still so unknown. And whatever feelings you might have about it, I'm sure those are really, for me anyway, I'm like, yay, we might get to go outside. Oh my god, no, we might get to go outside. I don't want to do that. Right? It's really complex. And how we can hold all of that, how we can be dignified and tall and grounded, how we can be wide and connected even when we're apart, how we can be deep with our wisdom and our ancestors and our experiences behind us, and this just reaching forward into the unknown so bravely. And we can take a deep and wide and dignified breath in for Om. And we'll begin in a child's pose and have your bolster handy. So, taking just a simple child's pose to start with, just to kind of get into it, wiggle, snuggle in. You don't need any props to begin with, but I'm going to keep the bolster right next to me so I have it for when I need it. And you're just coming into a shape that feels pretty easeful. Like, I don't even need to show you this, right? You know what a child's pose is, and you find one that works for you. If you need props, you use them. And just in the beginning here, just giving your weight over. There's something so profound about the act of giving your weight over. And you could notice, perhaps feel if there's a response to that action, if you offer your weight, if you feel a change in your body. And as you give yourself over, you offer your weight without resistance, or maybe there is some resistance, right? So feeling into that, feeling in to any resistance. Feeling in to the compression and allowing it to start seeping into you. And feeling into and opening up into a place of silence, a simple, profound place of presence. Can this silence be a source of nourishment? Can it be a refuge? Without moving too much, you can kind of stay low and calm to come up just a bit. Walk the hands back and open your knees up pretty wide, and you can pull the bolster in now. And where you want the bolster is that you feel the end of it here, putting some pressure right in the solar plexus area. So, right about where you imagine your diaphragm to be, just underneath the sternum. That's where we want to feel compression. And so I'm not pulling it all the way into the inner thighs and the groin, but just right about halfway down the torso. And before you let the head go, so you could settle in, and your knees can be any amount wide. And you all know that, of course, you're free to move them as we settle into the shape. But just first, just a slight downward look towards your bolster and just rock your head really slowly from side to side a few times. And I wonder if you'll notice that one side of the neck is perhaps more free or looser than the other side. And if you can feel that, if you can feel that there's one side that feels a little more easeful, a little looser, then you could start with that side and lay your head down on the bolster. My girlfriend Sandra, she's a brilliant teacher. Some of you know her. And she spoke the other day about how when we were in the womb and coming out of the birth canal, which not everyone did, but some did, that coming out, many of us turned our head naturally to one side on the way out. And there are these patterns, these really ancient patterns in us that are so lovely. Think about yourself like a little soft baby. So, as you give your weight over, can you really allow gravity to help you settle into your body? That you're no longer fighting gravity at all, but letting it help you settle. I read this today from the artist Marian Andrew. It's so lovely. She said, "It comes in waves, they say, because it feels like you've been dropped in the middle of the ocean without any sense of where land may be. All you can do is work with the waves, sometimes so large you can't see the sky, sometimes gentle, rocking you toward a mysterious horizon, sometimes on the same day in the same minute. Then one day you finally see a bit of land, and you can thank the waves for their part in pushing you there." So just the head coming up, and again, just a little rock from side to side, just feeling into all of that stuff in the neck. There's so many really important things running from the skull down into the lower body through the neck. And then you can settle your head the other direction and noticing how that feels, if it's okay. And if it's not, you can change it. Let yourself settle and you're feeling again into any resistance, giving your weight over and taking refuge in the quiet. So you can, if you need to, you can always bring the knees in and come to a regular child's pose here. Otherwise, you can keep the knees wide. You might even sneak them a teeny bit wider if that feels okay. And bring your head up just gently one last time, stacking the hands on your bolster so that you could rest your forehead on your hands for a moment. And in this sort of central space, to bring some attention to your solar plexus area, to your diaphragm, feeling the compression around the breathing instrument there. And as you breathe in, right, breathing in, the compression increases. And as you breathe out, imagine that compression, the effects of it sort of dissipating and sparkling, sprinkling down through the lower body. Breathing in, you feel perhaps the diaphragm area push against the bolster. Receive the compression on the inhale and allow it to disperse, to be like bubbles in sparkling water, like champagne bubbles, to be effervescent and spread down through the legs and the hips, the low belly. And then coming out from there, and carefully you can bring your knees closer. Take your time, feel all the things you feel. And some of you have heard me say this a few times in the last week because I just love it. But I've been taking a meditation course with Sasha Loring, and she said the other day, senses don't have opinions. And I just love that. So, no opinions about it. Your senses just feeling it all, not taking it personally. There's another Bonnie Duran. She's a Native American woman who's also a Buddhist, and she has this great 6-word meditation. She calls it an emergency 6-word meditation. Not perfect, not personal. Is it not perfect, not personal? Oh, I can't remember the last one, but I keep thinking like nothing's going to be perfect. And it's not personal. I'll remember the other one in a moment. Not perfect, not personal. It'll come to me in a sec. But you can take now the same bolster and you're going to turn it horizontally and come to a bridge where and you can feel free, so you'll adjust yourself as you need to, either forward or back more on the bolster, but you got your sacrum on the bolster, your feet on the floor, your arms can be anywhere that they want. And because we were so wide in that last shape, might feel nice for a few breaths just to widen the feet a touch more and let the knees fall in a bit. They don't have to touch, but just a little sense of the knees falling in towards the center, kind of collecting yourself after that big wide hip expansion. So, and we'll be here for just a bit, and we're gonna visit a few different shapes with this bolster underneath. I'm inviting you here, if it feels okay, to stretch your legs out and to reach your arms up over your head. Now, you could choose to not do the arms overhead, Or you could choose maybe to do a really soft interlacing of the arms overhead, which would increase just a tiny bit, probably increase the sensation in the shoulders. And you let the legs just be legs, just let them do their thing, whether they turn out or turn in or widen or narrow. You don't need to fix anything. Just let yourself land in the most organic place. So I'm looking up the 6 word meditation so I can share it with you. Mhm. Not perfect, not permanent, and not personal. There it is. How great is that? Not perfect, not permanent, not personal. So you could notice your breathing, how it might be like the waves of the ocean, like that passage I read, how they can be small and just gently nudge you forward every once in a while. There might be a big crashing wave of breath. And to contemplate, where does the breath end and the body begin? Or where does the body end and the breath begin? And perhaps there is no separation. So we'll stay on this bolster and bend the knees once again. Hook your right ankle over your left thigh. So an ankle to knee on the bolster on your back. And this would be one option, a really good place to stay if you're having some sensation. If you can feel a little bit of compression or pulling or discomfort, mild discomfort, you could stay here. Or you could bring the knees in towards your chest. And it's interesting with the bolster underneath you because that lift of the hips makes it so you don't necessarily need your hands. Your arms can go anywhere they want. Or you could use your hands. You could clasp around the back of the left thigh or anywhere that your hands want to be. So you're finding a place for your arms that feels good to you, and you can always go back if it's too much at any point. You can put your bottom foot back on the ground if you need relief. If you want more sensation, you could take that foot, the bottom one that's not hooked over, and extend the leg up, stretch through the knee, and that'll bring the legs even more forcefully towards your chest. So that might be extreme for some bodies, but not for others. And so you could choose. There's sort of like the first stop on the train is here. The second stop on the train is here. And the last stop would be here, but you can always go back to either one. And if you want to ditch the bolster altogether, that's always an option too. So you're finding somewhere to live in this one that feels like the right stop for you. not personal, without too many opinions about it, just noticing where and what you feel, finding the compression, breathing in, breathe into it, perhaps even lean into it a little bit, and exhaling to find that sensation of it dissipating, of it spreading out and reaching into every corner of the living matrix inside you. And if it does start to get uncomfortable, to see if you can have great respect for that discomfort instead of turning and running from it, to turn toward it. Maybe gently welcome it, even if it's just for one breath more than you normally would. So we'll come out, but keep the hips on the bolster. You can bring your leg back down to the floor, step your foot down with a bent knee, unhook the right foot. Take a moment for yourself here. We'll do the other side, but you've got some time here just to recover. As you feel like you're ready, you could change sides, but if you need more time for this one to fade away, please honor that, right? The timing is always a suggestion here. So left foot hooks, and you're either going to live with the right foot on the floor or let the knees drift in towards your chest. Giving your weight over, allowing gravity to help you settle in, right? Not fighting it, but inviting it to help. So this is from an article from the Insight Meditation Center talking about refuge. This woman says that I finally realized that one thing I could do in the face of suffering, in the face of discomfort, is to show up for it, to be present for it. It was really the only thing I could do, that I didn't have to turn away from it. There's a choice in those moments of suffering where we can either rail against it, which doesn't add anything good to the situation, or we can actually be there and witness it, meet it, and respond in whatever way we can without adding suffering to the situation. Right? We meet it, and then we don't add anything else. That's where wisdom can arise. Right? If we can meet suffering just one moment at a time, moment by moment, not adding anything, right? Not personal, not perfect, not permanent. So let your right foot come down to the floor again. Release the left ankle from the knee. And your choice, if you might enjoy stretching the legs out long again, that could feel good. You could take that shape where the feet are a little wider and the knees fall together. If you need to retrieve the bolster from underneath you sooner, please do. Otherwise, we'll just stay here and find some in between moments of rest, still on the bolster for just a moment. I was thinking too, we started with frog pose today because I was remembering my friend Erica in the very beginning of the pandemic. I think we'd been in it for maybe a month. And she said it feels like we've been in frog pose for a month. No, we've been in frog pose. We've been in mental, emotional frog pose for a year. So we'll come up and take a dragonfly now. So moving quietly, calmly up to sit, where you could have your bolster or any blankets, props, etc. nearby to take wide legs. I was also thinking with the sequence about spring on the horizon, right? The wild unknown that's facing us is getting brighter day by day, and so for spring, we do the inner and outer sides of the body, the groins and inner thighs, and the outer hips. And so you could fold over your support if you've got it. Lots of ways. You can pile props on if you need them. You could lean on your elbows. You could put your head down and turn it to the side like we did in the first pose. And you're welcoming the sensation of tensile stretch, of pulling in the groin, the sensation of compression at the outer hips, and wherever else you might feel those sensations, to welcome them, to move towards them, right? Like the birds in the bird sanctuary, flying towards it instead of running away. So, checking again with the breath and following it. You could follow the breath, you could visualize your diaphragm that we gave that sweet compression to. Might it feel a little more free, perhaps? Allowing it to just move organically. Perhaps it's compressed a bit with your bolster, letting the compression seep in. And just feeling into the breath. As the breath comes in, how deep does it go? Where do you feel it? Where does it end? Does it end? Where does the breath end and the body begin? Breathing in, you follow the breath in, and breathing out, just feeling the weight of your body on the planet. Breathing out, allowing your bones to exhale. Breathing out, letting your bones just float in the sea of tissue inside you. Notice where your mind goes and any stories that might create resistance in the body. And how being curious, interested in that relationship between the thoughts in our mind and the reaction in our tissues. And to help you let go of the storyline, if there is one, just take a little journey through your body, looking for what sensation you might find, like a bird or a butterfly. Go towards it. Breathe into it. Soak the compression in as you breathe in, and then disperse it as you breathe out. Champagne bubbles as you breathe out. last few moments here to really give your weight over, to be soft and spread out, looking for any pockets of resistance, any of those habitual places, the belly, the jaw, the shoulders. Start to climb your spine gently back up. Start to bring your legs in towards you, or any way you can, reset yourself here by windshield wipering or hugging the legs in. We're going to head down onto the back for a twist, but there's no rush to get there. So take some time. That was a while to be in that shape. So wait until you feel the echo fade away, until your tissues get quiet. Sometimes there's a buzzing or a vibrating that you feel as you release from a pose, the after pose. You can wait till that gets quiet. And then as you are ready, you could come down and just a simple twist. So you could have your knees to one side stacked. You could bring things to bring some comfort here, either a bolster between or under the knees if the floor is far away. If you want more sensation, you wrap the top leg on top and let the back of the heart just spill towards the floor. Don't worry if your opposite shoulder is not on the ground, does not have to be at all. Once you arrive in a spot that feels like you can settle, feel your limbs, feel your two arms, feel the weight of your arms. You could even play with them, just lift them up a little bit off the ground and feel how heavy they are when you pick them up just an inch from the ground, and then let them just plop back down and let gravity pour through your arms, and let your upper limbs get really heavy and soft. And you can do that. You don't have to pick the legs up, although you could, even if you just press into your bottom foot and pick your knees up a little bit, you feel how heavy the legs are, not even lifting the whole thing, right? And then let them drop and feel into the weight of your legs, those big heavy limbs, and let gravity invite them to soften. Invite gravity to help you deeply release. Feel into your torso, that twisting compression that you feel perhaps in the spine, between the shoulder blades, wherever you might feel compression in the torso. Breathe into it, meet it, soak it in, and as you exhale, disperse it. Do that a couple of times, breathing into that twist of the spine, a squeezing of all the muscles, joints, tendons, ligaments, and tissue in and around the spine, and that softness of dispersing it as you exhale. And the exhale allows the torso to be a little heavier. And as you exhale, you give the weight of your heart over. Give the weight of your head over your skull, your jaw, Your eyeballs. Can you even give the weight of your eyeballs over? And your brain. Give your brain to gravity. Go ahead and start to bring it back into center. You can rest or you can move, hug, and rock. And then change sides. Drop your legs the other way. Carry your props with you. Make it cozy. Make it a refuge for yourself, a place of nourishment that you want to run towards. Last few moments here using your breath to feel the body, right? How the breath allows us to feel the body, feeling into any resistance, feeling into any compression. to undo your, your twist here. You can find a place to rest. If there's anything else your body needs, do honor that. Otherwise, you can spread your legs out on your back or curl up on your side. You got a bolster if you want to roll over and wrap your arms around your bolster or tuck it under your knees. Yeah. Giving your weight over and opening into a place of silence and profound presence, a source of nourishment and refuge. As always, feel very welcome to stay. More in the gentlest way. Start the little blinks and wiggles that remind you that you have a body, to come back into this body, to run towards it, to fly into it. Like it's the sweetest flower, the thing you most adore. Welcome the breath into every corner of it. Let the breath start to bring it alive again. Reach or rock or hug. As you do come up, you might touch your hands to your heart or leave them on your thighs. I am a place of refuge. I am a sanctuary. No need to run from what's right here. Take a deep breath in. Oh. Thank you all.